with the Ten Commandments received from God verbally on top of Mount Sinai, that was to be the foundation for all the statutes and laws that God was going to give the children of Israel through Moses. For nation building, for no nation, civilized nation, can exist without statutes and laws. We begin with the laws of slavery and restitution, chapter 21 of Exodus. Now these are the judgments which thou shalt set before them. If thou buy a Hebrew servant, 6 years he shall serve, 6 years he shall serve. And in the 7th year, and in the 7th, he shall go out free for nothing. So you don't pay him, he doesn't pay you. If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master have given him a wife, and she have borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's. They're not the servant's wife and kids. And he shall go out by himself. And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free, then his master shall bring him unto the judges. He shall also bring him to the door, or unto the door post, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. In other words, as a sign of what the agreement is between the two, his master is going to put a hole through his ear. And if a man sell his daughter to be a maidservant, he shall not go out as the men servants do. That is not quite clear what that means to me. So if anybody has any questions or any comments on that regard, please leave them in the comment section below. Obviously, it goes without. It seems like men and women are not treated the same way. If she please not her master, who hath betrothed her to himself, then shall he let her be redeemed. To sell her unto a strange nation, he shall have no power, seeing he hath dealt deceitfully with her. In other words, it sounds like he has to restitute or give her back to her father. And if he have betrothed her unto his son, he shall deal with her and after the manner of daughters. And we will see what this is all about in the future chapters and in the future books such as Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. In other words, just because you get yourself another wife, that doesn't mean whoever you married prior, suddenly you're going to neglect her. And if he do not these three unto her, then shall she go out free without money. So these are the duties of a man if he betroths himself a woman, being a maidservant or a wife. He that smiteth a man so that he die shall surely be put to death. And if a man lie not in wait, but God deliver him into his hand, then I will appoint thee a place whither he shall flee. This will be more specified in further chapters and in further books, but it bears repeating. And if a man lie not in wait, but God deliver him into his hand, then I will appoint thee a place whither he shall flee. This refers to if something happened, if you ended up smiting somebody and he died, but you didn't do it on purpose, then you could flee to a place that God will appoint for thee. But if a man come presumptuously upon his neighbor to slay him with the guile, thou shalt take him from mine altar, that he may die. And he that smiteth his father or his mother shall be surely put to death. So you can't hate your parents, in other words. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. So you don't. This is a kidnapping people, in other words. And if men strive together, and one smite another with a stone, or hit him with a stone, or with his face, and he die not, but keepeth his bed, in other words, ends up being stuck in bed because of the injuries. If he rise again, the guy that got hit, and walk abroad upon his staff, then shall he that smote him be quit, or acquitted. He's not guilty. Nothing is going to happen to him. Only he shall pay for the loss of his time, and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed. Just because he got up after you hit him, that doesn't mean there's a compensation involved, obviously. And if a man smite his servant or his maid with a rod, but he die under his hand, he shall be surely punished. So even though you own slaves, and your maidservant or your male servant die because you beat him, there's punishment for you. Notwithstanding, if he continue a day or two, in other words, if he still survives a couple of days, he shall not be punished, for he is his money. After all, he did pay for these servants. If men strive and hurt a woman with child, and yet no mischief follow. In other words, if two men fight and the pregnant woman, the pregnant wife of one of the two men gets involved, and nothing happens to the baby, in other words, he shall be surely punished according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. In other words, if this baby is born prematurely, but nothing is wrong with him, while the two men were fighting and the woman got involved, the guilty party will have to pay the husband of the wife according to what the husband determines and what the judges agree upon. That's essentially what that means. And if any mischief follow, in other words, if this baby is born miscarried and there's actually something wrong with him, then thou shalt give life for life. If the baby is dead, then you got to put the man to death. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. And if a man smite the eye of his servant or the eye of his maid, that it perish, he shall let him go free for his eye's sake. So if you hit your servant, for lack of a better term, I don't want to call them slaves, and you ended up blowing his eye or damage his eye, then you got to let him go. And if he smite out his manservant's tooth, or knock his tooth out, or knock his teeth out, or his maidservant's tooth, you shall let him go free for his tooth's sake. Same thing. You got to let him go if you hurt him, or at least for eye and tooth. If an ox gore a man or a woman, they die. In other words, if an ox or a bull ends up stabbing a man or a woman, if they die, then the ox shall be surely stoned and put to death, and his flesh shall not be eaten. But the owner of the ox shall be quit. In other words, you can't blame the owner of the ox or this bull for the bull goring or stabbing a man or a woman. But, says the Lord, if the ox were wont to push with his horn in time past, so if he stabbed people in time past, and it hath been testified to his owner that this bull was doing this, and he had not kept him in other words, the owner has not essentially restrained this bull from goring people with the horns, but he hath killed a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and the owner also shall be put to death, because he did not do something about his bull or his ox goring people. So he's going to have to pay with his life as well. If there be laid on him a sum of money, then he shall give for the ransom of his life whatsoever is laid upon him. There is a way to get out of dying, but there's a ransom you have to pay. Whether he have gored a son or have gored a daughter, according to his judgment, shall he be done unto him. If the ox shall push a manservant or a maidservant, which are slaves, he shall give unto their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned or killed. And if a man shall open a pit, or if another dig a hole, or if a man shall dig a pit and not cover it, and an ox or an ass fall therein, the owner of the pit shall make it good, and give money unto the owner of them, whether an ass or an ox, and the dead beast shall be his. Right. The owner of the pit shall make it good, and give money unto the owner of them, and the dead beast shall be his. So, in other words, I'm not quite sure if he gets the right. If the man that dug the hole, and the ox or ass falls in it, and the animal dies, then the owner of the hole has to pay for the animal, and the owner of the animal gets to keep it, is my understanding. If you guys understood otherwise, leave it in the comment section below. And if one man's ox hurt another's, that he die, and if two ox ended up fighting with each other, then they shall sell the live ox, the one that survived, then and divide the money of it, and the dead ox shall also they divide. In other words, they end up splitting whatever the sell of the live ox, and they end up splitting the dead ox as well, that they may eat. Or if it be known that the ox had used to push in time past, and his owner had not kept him in, he shall surely pay the ox for ox, and the dead shall be his own. In other words, if in time past this ox has stabbed other oxen, and the owner knew about it but did nothing about it, he shall surely pay for the ox for ox. In other words, give another ox or pay the worth of the oxen, and the dead shall be his own. And then he gets to keep the dead oxen. That is my understanding. And that concludes chapter 22 of a series of chapters that we will read in regards to the statutes and laws that God will give the children of Israel through Moses before they enter their promised land. As always, thank you for watching. I always do recommend that you guys follow along with your own Bible, that you may see and read for yourself what it is that we are reading. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And that concludes chapter 21. We'll see you at 22, and peace of the Lord be with you guys. Shalom.